President of the United States addressed the American public on Sunday night, determined to tell everybody exactly what he was going to do to keep America safe. There's only one problem. Here we sit on Monday evening, and people are still trying to decipher exactly what he said, if he said anything at all. Let's see if we can find out, if you will, from somebody who listened just as intently as we did. Once again, we'll welcome in the presidential candidate and the Republican senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul. Senator, thanks so much for joining us, and I guess that's really it, right up. What did the president say, if anything? It seemed to be a great advertisement for his legacy campaign, but it didn't seem as if he broke any ground whatsoever.
You know, I think from the very beginning, the president's been trying to do a bait and switch on the American people. He wants to make this about his liberal agenda, which is gun control, and not about terrorism. I think if we want to know how we could have prevented this and how we can protect against future attacks, we need to look at who we're letting into our country and what are the rules for gaining entry into our country. I've put forward legislation that would say, look, we just have to put a halt on immigration from the Middle East until we can be more certain that the people who are coming here and the people who are already here are not here to attack us.
What is it going to take to get through to some people that this is not the 1920s and the 1930s? Look, we understand the Statue of Liberty, give me you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor. This is what America is based on. But things have changed. It's 100 years later. We didn't have people using the internet, using social media, sneaking into the country trying to kill us. So what is it going to take to get to people like the president, like Hillary Clinton and others, to make them understand this is a 21st century war?
The other interesting thing about the give me you're tired, give me you're poor, you're huddled masses is that when that poem was written, people didn't come to America to be put on welfare. All of the refugees who come to our country are immediately enlisted and enrolled in welfare. They're put in government housing, they're sent a government check, and given food stamps. We got a lot of people in our country who are suffering without saying that we are going to open up and bring all of the world's refugees here. The other problem is the president says, oh, we only want to admit 10,000 Syrian refugees. Well, then all of their families apply, and through the family immigration process, 10,000 becomes 100,000. And I'm not without sympathy. Look, my church has helped families to come to this country, but at the same time, we can't do it without having sufficient vetting to make sure that we're not admitting people who wish us harm.
I got about 2 minutes left here. You talk about vetting. Let's talk about the NSA and the fact that there are people such as Governor Chris Christie who say we need to go back to the collection of data. We need to do everything possible we can to find out everything possible about every single person. I know you're very much against it, but how can we avoid it at this point? We have to dig deep into people's pasts.
I think there'll always be people who want to give up liberty for a false sense of security. I'm for looking at all the records of terrorists or anybody we suspect of terrorism. I just don't want to look at all the records of all Americans without a warrant. The Fourth Amendment says that to look at someone's records, the government has to individualize it. They have to put an individual's name on the warrant. They have to say what they want to look for, and then they have to have suspicion or probable cause. I'm all for that. The police obey the Constitution every day to deal with murderers and rapists and horrible people. We should do the same with terrorists. I think we get distracted when we think, oh, we're going to collect every American's records, because we get so many records that the haystack becomes so big that think we actually don't go deep enough into it to actually figure out who are the ones that would attack us. So I would use investigation, I would use suspicion, and I would look at all the records of terrorists. You know, think about the Boston bombers. We were so busy collecting everybody's information that we didn't bother to know that one of them traveled back to Chechnya. We didn't bother to continue to investigate, even though the Russians had tipped us off. So I'm for more investigation of people for whom we have suspicion, but I'm not for the big dragnet where we we scoop up and vacuum up all Americans' records.
Got about 20 seconds left. Don't we as Americans need to realize that here in this current war that we are going to have to give up some civil liberties along the way, as bad as that sounds?
I don't think you have to give up liberty for security. And in fact, I think we kind of give up liberty for a false sense of security. So I think you can have both. I think you can use the Constitution and still capture terrorists and prevent terrorism. There's no evidence that this bulk collection has actually captured or deterred any criminals or deterred any terrorism attacks.
Let us see if we can do everything we can, because at least I think we're all agreed on that. We have to keep this country safe, and we've got to do it now. Senator, always a pleasure to talk to you. If we don't get a chance to speak to you beforehand, a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to you and your family.
Same to you, Ed. Thanks.
All right, take care. We will continue this conversation. Let's hope and find answers. The Hardline continues.